Football is a bond, a connection that spans cities, countries, and generations.
What you gonna do with your mama right now? Oh, baby, how beautiful is that?
Now, Adobe is unleashing creative, marketing, and AI tools to help the NFL elevate the game for fans on game day and every day leading up to it, using data and AI to take content to another level, connecting with fans at the right place and the right time, letting them celebrate their team in new ways.
Throws it. End zone. Touchdown.
This is where Adobe and the NFL change the game. This is where personalization meets prime time.
Touchdown.
Are you ready? Adobe, an official fan experience partner of the NFL.
Hello, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us for today's session, delivering global fan experiences at the intersection of content, data, and trust. I'm your host, Lindsay Morris from Adobe, and we are going inside the playbook on what it actually takes to reach a global audience the moment something happens. We have an all-star roster joining us today. We have Thomas Ciosi here, Chief Privacy Officer at the NFL, and Joe DiMarzio, Director of Data Risk and Privacy at PwC, plus a bench of Adobe experts, Jen Zick, Jason Oler, Elliot Gordon, and Kevin James. Hi, you guys. You can say hello to the audience.
Hey, everyone.
Hello.
Hey. So here's how the rundown for today's matchup is going to go. We're going to start with Tom, Joe, and Jen on what it takes to build fan relationships at scale. From there, we'll hear from Adobe's event monitoring team, Elliot, Jason, and Kevin, with a behind-the-scenes look at how to keep the fan experience running smoothly when every second counts. And so that brings us to the challenge at the center of today's discussion, high-stakes moments. Breaking moments unfold live. A player gets drafted, a goal is scored, a trade drops. Fans are already on their phone, right? And so what happens next is an opportunity to engage fans in real time. So when excitement is the highest, attention is at its peak, capturing that opportunity isn't just a game day challenge. It's the result of work that began months before the moment arrived. And so what separates the organizations that lead from the ones that react is preparation. They know who their fans are across every channel. They build infrastructure designed for the spike, not reorganized around it. They make content fast enough to keep up with a season's worth of moments, and they treat trust as the foundation that makes it all possible, not an afterthought. Today, you're going to hear from these folks who are doing just this. Okay, so to get our heads in the game, to start off with a quick poll, where is your organization today when it comes to high volume moments? Are you still laying those foundations? Maybe you have the pieces in play, but they're not fully connected yet. Maybe you're mostly there, you're looking to optimize, or you've built a strong approach. So you're here to validate and get new ideas. Of course, we're talking about sports today, but these moments can happen across so many different organizations and industries. Okay, thank you for sharing your responses. We've got a lot to cover today, no matter where you are in your real-time journey. There is no time to waste. Let's get right into it. Thomas Ciosi, again, the Chief Privacy Officer at the NFL, where he's responsible for making sure that as the league scales its fan relationships globally, it does so in a way that fans trust. Joe DiMarzio is the Director of Data, Risk, and Privacy at PwC. He and his team built one of the most sophisticated fan engagement ecosystems in the NFL. And Jen Zick from Adobe is the Digital Strategy Group Principal for Sports, Media, and Entertainment. Please help me welcome Tom, Joe, and Jen. Thank you so much for being here. I am so excited about our conversation today.
Thanks for having us, Lindsay.
Okay, so thinking about fan engagement, it feels like every year the bar is getting a little higher and a little higher. Experience, they need to be more personal, right? More relevant, more immediate. So, first question, from your perspective, what are the changes in fan expectations that are making the biggest impact on organizations today? Tom, why don't you take the first snap?
Oh, thank you, Lindsay. Appreciate the question. And first, thank Adobe for this platform. Excited to have this discussion today, particularly with Joe and Jen. The three of us work together fairly closely. So this should be an interesting group discussion. But great topic. And like thinking about how fast things are moving in the world of digital and companies in general, but sports in particular. Like we think about what sports were like when we might have been younger. You would sit there on a couch, you would watch TV, possibly on cable, possibly on a network, and you would watch a game unfold, and then you would move on and go do something else. That's not how content works anymore. Like when you think about how different age groups, and you look at the market research, and everyone consumes sports a little differently. Even you look at younger fans now thinking about sports as opposed to, they're not really following a particular team. They're locked into players. They're locked into highlights. They want to consume things in a different way, which is great. And it creates a lot of opportunity for these sports organizations. But how do you meet the fan at their demand? They're looking for a number of different channels, different types of content, and immediacy, to the point that you were raising, Lindsay. Like we really need to be timely in these kinds of responses. Then on top of that, we're starting to scale internationally. So how do we go about meeting different demographics, different age groups, where they are with their expectations for consuming information on an immediate scale in multiple different platforms, including social all over the place, different scale content. It's really impressive. So we've really done a lot of work in leaning into the technology here in a partnership with Adobe in the way we're resizing video and making sure we can go immediately from posting game content to different social platforms in different countries with translation video content, and making sure that we're personalizing everything exactly to what the fan wants. And this is scaled across beyond game day as well, because we're moving across the rest of the calendar year. The idea for sports is to create year-round engagement on these tentpole events. Draft has been exploding every year. We're breaking records with engagement. So really trying to keep the fan experience and engaged in the sport throughout the year in the ecosystem, and not just around that one particular game day. So that's been something we've been extremely focused on. And I know we're going to talk a lot about this later. But one of the pieces that I've been particularly focused on, and I know the league is focused on, is making sure that you build that fan relationship and we're getting them engaged and we're meeting them where they want. That's fantastic. We have to make sure we're maintaining that fan's trust and doing things ethically and responsibly, and really making sure that fan is comfortable with everything that the league is reaching out to them for. So bringing all that together always reaches a great fan experience. So appreciate that. I know, Jen, I'm going to kick it to you now. I know you're going to think about maybe how this expands outside of the sports realm, and thinking about maybe some more digital brands.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. So actually, I'm going to answer this question a little differently, because I think it's important to talk about changes happening even before data collection and the journey even starts. More and more fans are going to LLMs and AI assistants right now for discovery, and it's incredibly important for sports orgs to be discoverable in those environments. So as fans are looking for the latest schedule, the match times, ways to watch, scores, anything you could think about, brands really need to show up, and LLMs then need to transition to your owned and operated digital properties so you can own the relationship. Because if you don't own the relationship, nothing else matters. So this is such a big topic right now, something we're talking about with all of our sports clients, and even beyond sports, of course. So really wanted to hit on that. Now, I will say, once you identify your fans, you really need to centralize that data. And that's the number one starting point with pretty much all of my clients. It was this way, with the NFL, just working on that data centralization piece. I mean, sometimes when I talk to other prospects, I mean, we see 6 versions of the same person living in 6 different systems, and, that just doesn't work. So results wise, I mean, collectively, we've seen over a 300% lift in active contactable fans by implementing data centralization strategies, governance. This is so important. These deeper frameworks, I mean, they're not only important for compliance considerations, but they also impact results and ROI. So I could go on and on this topic, but Joe, I really want to hear your thoughts on this one. I'll
Yeah,
pass it over to you.
thanks, Jen. And Tom and Jen, to build on what you just said, I think, look, we see fans demanding more and more personalization and relevance in how they're engaging across sports, both at the league and team layers and globally. I think there's also the paradox of them also wanting control over how their data is being used as part of that, and then introduce AI in a similar manner. And so I think there is a bit of a balance to be struck in terms of giving the fan more control around that experience and how their data is going to be used to personalize and make things more relevant. So I know we're going to unpack that a bit more as part of this conversation. But I think those expectations, both from a personalization and how that drives the fan experience, as well as the control that they have along the way, is a very important factor to consider as we look ahead.
Awesome. Such good insights. You guys covered a lot in that question. There's a lot to cover, and some of the sort of metrics and those, the impact is so clear from these different pillars for how engagement is changing. So thank you. I think you all mentioned personalization. It's a priority, I think, for almost every organization across every industry. At this point, we hear it from our customers, of course, constantly trying to get that right. And so, what has to be in place to make it successful? Jen, I know your experience with customers across sports media and entertainment goes really, really deep into this work. So, I'll start with you for this one.
Sure, thanks, Lindsay. So I think the biggest transformation is happening in conversational experiences. I mean, this is where fans are engaged in real time and you get to know them on a deeper level. So it's really the most scalable way to capture zero party data. I mean, when fans are asking, whether it's in app or on your website, when they're asking about the best seats for their family when buying tickets, or the best vendors for Mexican food as they're planning their trip to your venue, or if they're at home and they're trying to figure out if they could get t-shirts for their kids in time for a World Cup viewing party. I mean, these are all preference data components that can be captured, and you need to capture this data and action off of it. So, some of these explicit intent signals are short term and some are longer term. But either way, it's important to capture and act at the right time. And if you're asking fans for this information, you need to have the tools in place to activate on it in real time. Like I just said, I mean, in real time, that means like next click, or it could be the next site visit, because if you're not using this data, it can break trust as much as overusing it. And this real-time decisioning and activation piece, this is what most organizations are quite frankly still missing, at least on the prospect front. Joe, I mean, you're a real expert on using data responsibly. I'll turn it to you for your comments on this.
Yeah, I think it's also a good inflection point to kind of team more cross-functionally across the organization, and personalization takes a bunch of capabilities coming together to really work well. But I think this is where we're seeing the marketing teams connect with the analytics teams and the legal teams to make sure that we're going about this the right way, that we're capturing the right permissions that we need to do what we ultimately want to achieve, and doing that across several different activation channels. I know emails are heavily relied upon historically in sports, but we're getting into text and app push and paid media, a bunch of different ways in which we can engage with our fans. And on top of that, there's other, behind the scenes types of data use cases that more and more consent, preference management are going to be important. I think we'll talk a little bit about what that actually looks like in some of the upcoming questions. Tom, I also would love to get your thoughts here as well.
I think some great points were raised earlier, and I want to go back to like something you mentioned earlier, Jen, really thinking about how centralization is so critical, and like really even backing up before that, like you hear people say all the time, like, is your data AI ready now? And there's this concept of like, you need data cleanliness before you can utilize some of these tools and do all the fun, sexy stuff that we want to do with some of the new operational systems. But you need that baseline data and understanding and organization in order to effectively communicate and represent your brand and engage fans. If you don't have that centralization and understanding and the real bedrock underneath all of this, you're going to be fighting back all the time, right? And so like I'll use a really, really overly simplified example, right? Like if you are a Giants fan and we start sending you emails about the Cowboys, you're not going to be engaged. You might be annoyed. You're going to get frustrated and probably not click on that. That seems like something we should be able to figure out, obviously. But then it's like, okay, well, think about, well, you have then the Giants and the Jets in one market. You're living in the same location. How do we parse that? We really need to have an understanding of how you're going to integrate with the product in order to meet you with the content that you're looking for and do proper personalization. Really that data understanding is going to be key. So like not over collecting, to the point that you were raising earlier, and like making sure that we're collecting exactly what we need and using the data responsibly, not letting things go stale, but really using that in a way that meets the fans' expectations with what they are looking for.
I love that analogy. It immediately made me feel that if I was to get an email that was not speaking to me, we really expect it at this point. And you really could go, the wrong direction, for the wrong team. Okay. So we've talked about personalization and AI, and trust is becoming increasingly important. I think we've already, brought threads of that through the conversation. You've all touched on this, but I really want to focus here for a minute. Like, where does the consent, the preference management fit into this personalization conversation? Joe, I think you could pick this one up.
Yeah, happy to jump in. So trust is a very broad term, but it's used probably a million times a day within organizations anymore. But what does that look like in practice? It starts with a couple things. One is transparency, right? So as an organization who's providing world-class experiences to fans, what are we looking to do with the data that you're providing us, right? There's often some benefits that are, of course, going to come back to the fans, and so it's one of the first opportunities you have as part of the front door into this experience. Just being transparent around what are we bringing in and what is the fan getting in return, and whether that's personalized offers, personalized content, making sure we're providing you the content you chose, to Tom's point. But that's a big factor here, and there's multiple opportunities across the fan journey to provide those moments of transparency. Also, alongside of that, control. So we're seeing lots of organizations within sports and beyond focus on getting their consent data in order. And we just talked about what a core foundational capability that is. But then layering on top of that, like a preference center. So giving fans a world-class preference management experience, so that rather than having to go into a bunch of different UIs, we can pull that into one cohesive view where I control how the league or teams are engaging with me across all these different channels. Also, right, where does AI fit into that experience, as well as we have more and more AI capabilities that are fan-facing, which enhances that experience. And so in practice, right, choice, control, transparency are becoming paramount to making sure that we're achieving our business and fan engagement objectives as well. Tom, I'm sure you have more to layer into that as well.
I think we could all agree that like we could do like multiple hour-long sections on just this question alone, right? How do you really understand like your fans' preferences and meet them where they are? But it's critical, right? Like if you don't have that baseline understanding and you can meet your customers with what they're looking for, they're going to get frustrated, they're going to churn, you're going to lose engagement. So how do you do that? How do you put options in front of them to make sure that they're getting what they want? How do you make sure your data is intelligent enough? I'll come back with another interesting example, right? Like my sister lives in Houston with her family. I buy them lots of Texans gear because they like it and it's cool. I am not a Texans fan. They're a great team. I love all the teams, but I'm not a Texans fan. So can the data and engagement be smart enough to realize that, yes, I might want to see consumer products offerings from the Texans, but I don't necessarily want a push notification about their score updates? Like really understanding in how people are going to interact with your product and what they're going to want. So thinking about it from the content layer and the channel layer, that like, yes, I might love my emails and my summaries of how my team is doing, but if you text me, I'm going to be annoyed. So like very clearly engaging with exactly what they're excited for. So putting something in front of the customer, like having that initial understanding of what they want, but also putting something in front of the customer that allows them to express those options, whether it's some form of a preference center or some other mechanism where they can give you that kind of content, and then listening to it, right? Like when a customer tells you what they're looking for, trust them, meet them at their expectation, and then provide, you're going to see a lot of success. Jen, I know you might have some thoughts.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. So, I mean, just to play off what both of you already shared, I often hear many companies are more worried about being too intrusive, but really the other side of that is if fans give you their data and they tell you what they want, they expect you to use it. Otherwise, they're thinking like, I told you this, why are you ignoring me? And going back to your, I'm a Giants fan and I'm getting Cowboys, information. That's not cool. And Tom, maybe I told you I was born and raised a Giants fan when I saw you in Vegas. In fact, Eli showed up in our executive forum, which was so fun. I mean, I'm just a forever fan. I can't help it now that I live in California. But anyway,
And I'm sorry.
there's there's so many ways to get at this fan or customer preference data. I mean, I talked earlier about conversational AI and natural language, and I think that really is the gold standard for that explicit data. But there's also these inferred behaviors that you need to clarify, like the buying merch example that Tom mentioned, and Joe. I mean, you both talked about preference management systems. I think those have been around forever, but they're so crucial, and there's ways to surface them through better onboarding when you have a new to file fan or someone downloads the app. I mean, these onboarding programs to capture fan preferences and then to update those preferences because they are always changing in many cases, especially with younger generations who aren't as deep rooted in their team-based fandom as maybe I am, and they follow more players, and players get traded and this and that. You really do need to constantly update that information. So really, operationalizing trust, it's about that value exchange and being transparent, giving fans control, and using data in real time to make the experience better.
And Jim, one more point. You had talked about centralizing fan data more broadly. I mean, this is another area where there's many different preference and consent signals that could be floating around a fragmented ecosystem. Being able to centralize those as well has been a big strategic play within this industry and others. And as we see organizations invest more and more in these types of efforts, we are seeing a net positive outcome. So that's reducing churn, maintaining our fan base, and in many cases, growing contactability across multiple channels. And so there's some real life proof points that we're seeing coming out of these types of efforts, which I'm sure everyone would want to hear.
Yeah, hearing those proof points is really powerful, as well as the anecdotes, again, which we feel deeply. We're all consumers. Okay, you're all leaders in this space. Looking ahead, what's going to separate leaders from followers in fan engagement? Jen, I'm going to go with you.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'll start. I mean, global fandom already came up, but leaders, they'll really operate at a global scale while still making every fan feel like the experience was built around them. I mean, we've done a really good job as an industry the past 2 years in sports of knowing who the in-person fan is, largely due to digital ticketing, but we have a very long runway as an industry to learn more about global fans. And again, it's about the data side that we've talked a lot about, but content and delivering contextualized content globally that is not only the right language, but also factors in other cultural nuances so it resonates. I mean, this is super important and a really big focus for future leaders or leaders, looking to continue to grow and be successful in the future. And this is why scaling content through generative AI, it's really crucial here because you can't do it all with small teams and small budgets. You really need to adopt the latest tech. I'll also say at the end of the day, it's really about shifting from a strategy that's maybe more campaign-based thinking to real-time orchestrations, because it's not how we personalize only more, it's about how we make the entire experience feel more connected and alive. So if I attend, maybe one day of a 2-week tournament and watch the rest from home, I want a seamless experience factoring in my in-person attendance and helping me extend that super fandom to my couch. So, I mean, really fans won't remember every message, but they will remember how it feels to be a fan of your team. So anyway, Tom, Joe, I don't know, who wants to go next? I would love to hear your thoughts on this one.
I'll jump in. I mean, I think for me, it's really investing in a framework that scales, right? And maybe that sounds obvious, but like if you had to put it in one word and like who's successful over time and over a long enough scale, it's adaptation. Like, can you work within new environments? I mean, think about how much the media environment has changed recently with cord cutting and everyone moving to streaming and consumption being different. In the sports world, we see games being hosted on multiple platforms now. It's very different than a world we were in 5 years ago. What is it going to look like 5 years from now? We see the advent of deep fakes and AI slop. Does that drive people to more verified sources? Do we have to change the way we think about those things? So it's really like trying to think of how we can maintain that strong relationship with fans. And that, I think, is really adapting to new platforms and meeting the customer where they are. Joe?
And I'd layer in, I think it's about finding the right balance between innovation and risk. I think there's a lot of uncertainty and ambiguity. And I think it's a great opportunity, like I said earlier, to lock arms cross-functionally to really find where that balance sits and create fast lanes where fast lanes should be so that everyone can continue to innovate and provide these great experiences driven by data and AI while also not stepping in the mud from a regulatory perspective. And so there is a balance to be had there, and that could look different depending on where we're talking about around the globe. But being open-minded about that and making sure you're talking across the different functions from marketing, legal, DNA, and digital as well.
I love that fast lanes or fast lane should be. Also, when you think about, I think, governance and those things, that actually allows you to go fast, right? Like making sure you have those in place so you can actually move quite quickly. So all of it is about moving quickly and doing it right and staying true to your fans. Awesome. Okay, final play. One takeaway from each of you. Can we do it? Tom, you've got the ball.
Maybe it's the boring answer, but like I'm so focused on fan trust or consumer trust, right? I'm the controls guy, so it shouldn't surprise anybody. But really thinking about like how fast things are moving, and you're incorporating new technology like AI into your products. We're trying to think about incorporating those things into our product, which is a sport. So like when you're looking at on-field gameplay, what are we doing game day with AI to enhance player safety, to enhance the consumer experience? And like there's a lot of cool ideas out there, but like the paramount to that is fan trust. We have to make sure that the shield is above repute. We're maintaining our reputation. We're maintaining authenticity, and that keeps our fans engaged. And that's really what we're looking to do and make sure we can do long term. Jen, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I mean, we opened talking about fan expectations and how they're shifting. So I guess I would sum it up by just reiterating that we're moving from segmentation to something that's much closer to an individual conversation at scale in real time. I mean, it's not future state anymore. That is the expectation. That is the fan expectation.
Love that. Joe, bring it home.
I would definitely echo both Tom and Jen here. But I think when we're talking about consent and privacy and trust, really looking at them as critical enablers. It's not about meeting compliance table stakes. These are crucial to the success of your personalization and fan engagement objectives. So looking at those as sort of one and the same and cross-functionally, as I said, is going to be key.
I love all of these. I love listening to all three of you. I think my biggest takeaway is really thinking about how customers and fans really do buy trust, and it needs to be built in from that start, from that beginning sort of layer, again, in order to do all of these things that we all expect and get excited about. Thank you, Tom, Jen, Joe, for being here and for sharing your insights with us. They were hugely valuable to the audience. Thanks for being part of our team today.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you, Lindsay.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, and then thinking about these topics of personalization, AI, and trust with your own fans and customers, just a couple of key takeaways we heard from our experts. Fandom is global and emotional. It's not just competition with your competitors, it's with any great digital experience. There's a lot going on right now. Data is foundational. Unified profiles enable personalization at scale. 3, trust and governance. This enables you to move and to grow faster and to keep that trust with your customers and your consumers. And then personalization drives measurable revenue. We talked about some of this true business outcomes in this session. It's incredibly important. Okay. As we head into the second half of our program, let's shift to strategy to execution. So when the biggest moments in sports happen, there's a team behind the scenes making sure every experience stays up and running. Adobe works with some of the world's most recognized brands across sports, media, and entertainment. And when those brands have a major moment coming, Elliot, Jason, Kevin, and their teams are often right in the middle of it. They couldn't be here live with us today. There's a lot going on right now, as you guys know, but let's hear what they had to say.
Jason, Elliot, Kevin, welcome. Thank you so much for being a part of the team today. I am so excited to jump into our conversation. Okay, so for Elliot, walk us through how this actually works. So when a major moment is coming, what does Adobe do to prepare for game day, like game on?
Sure. We collectively pull teams together months in advance. The benefit we have from a sports perspective is its seasonality. We know when the Super Bowl is. We know when Major League Baseball starts their season. We know when the NBA Finals are approaching, which is right now. And in the context of this conversation today, the World Cup starts tomorrow. Jason and I have worked for months behind the scenes to get the event ready. And what that generally means is looking at historical information. What did our customers do the last time they had the Super Bowl? Which broadcaster was involved with it? Who are the rights holders globally? And beyond that, what customers are looking to leverage these events from a marketing perspective? The Starbucks of the world, the Fanatics of the world. And how do we help make sure that their ability to leverage our products at scale during a pivotal moment in time as they're leveraging these sports events is as frictionless as possible? And so Jason and I, worked tirelessly together for months on end, leading into these events, doing a lot of proactive outreach and a lot of research, to be quite honest, behind the scenes, whether we're tracking ad week and understanding what customers are trying to leverage these marquee events using our technology, or whether it's internal resources like what Kevin would do on behalf of the NFL and take a look at historical trends and really dig into the readiness of what that looks like at scale year over year.
That's really interesting. We get asked a lot about like the scorecard, right? Like what does winning look like beyond uptime metrics? We're always asked about metrics and measurement. So can you speak a little bit about that, how you're thinking about it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So once again, I'll say, so Jason and I together, so Jason's working on the engine, right? Are we fine-tuned? Do we have the right fuel in there? Are we firing on all cylinders? And then from a customer perspective, the lens that I look through is if you're, say, Fanatics and the Super Bowl has concluded and you need to get your marketing campaigns out at scale to get inspirational purchases around the Seahawks gear, that needs to happen immediately, not 2 hours from now, 4 hours from now, when the shine of the moment has waned. We also worked very closely with Starbucks, and Starbucks for the last 2 Super Bowls has done a post-game coupon to get people ready for Monday, because now that they've had a long night of watching the game and you need either a BOGO or a free coffee on Monday morning after the game, that can't happen. That can't come on Tuesday because you've already lost the moment. So for us, yes, we want systems at scale that are going to be resilient to the traffic all running into what Jason was referring to. But at the same time, I'm looking at it from a customer lens, and all the customers touching the event, having the ability to reach their consumers, where they need to meet them in that exact moment as how they're trying to execute based on their use cases or their marketing goals for these events.
That's great. I love a post-game coupon.
Oh, yeah.
So good. Okay, so that leads us in a little bit, Jason, I am curious, like this is a sports conversation. That's really what we're kind of talking about overall today, but your team does work across industries, right? You're working with a lot of different customers, kind of like you mentioned, Elliot. So marketing leaders who are in the audience, who are not in sports, maybe, retail, finance, travel, like what's the version of the story that would be most relevant for them?
Our biggest event of the year is Black Friday, Cyber Monday. I love it and I hate it. I spend 9 months of the year thinking about Black Friday. It's incredible. And Elliot underlined a lot of what we do. We spend months trying to understand trends, trying to understand how customers are going to be utilizing us. What are the questions we don't know so that we can figure out what to ask our customers? We plan for months to facilitate moments of excitement. When you're talking about some of these big events, whether it's some new telecom announcement, whether it's some new product coming to market, whether it's Black Friday, where a retail customer makes 40% of their annual revenue within a very short period of time, we have to function at peak at that moment on behalf of our customer. And so we've learned through experience, let's just say that, through experience, that a lot of the pounds of effort are worth the tons of cure, or better than the tons of cure. We want to be there on behalf of our customers to make sure that their pivotal events, their pivotal moments shine. We don't want them to be thinking about us and how we perform. We're just there and we're just performing, and that's our whole goal.
I love that. Okay, Kevin, you're up under center. You just came off the NFL draft. You have been deeply involved in Super Bowl readiness. I'm so curious, can you give us a sense of what that looks like to support the NFL through one of those moments?
Yeah, happy to. Just to provide a sense of scale here, the NFL, Super Bowl, and draft are really two marquee events with a massive global footprint, reaching more than 200 million fans worldwide across digital platforms, traditional broadcasting, social media. That scale raises the stakes immediately, when you really think about it. What stands out most to me about supporting the NFL during moments like the Super Bowl and the draft is the level of trust involved. These are highly visible events where expectations are exceptionally high, and the customer is counting on us not only for operational support, but for confidence and true partnership. A lot of that starts well before the event even begins. It means making sure that the right monitoring is in place, the right teams are engaged, everyone is aligned around the plan. That level of preparation is what really creates the stability once the event is live. Then during the event itself, it becomes about staying close to the customer, staying calm in a high stakes environment, and being ready to respond in real time if anything needs attention. The goal is to bring a steady presence behind the scenes so the customer can stay focused on delivering the moment.
That's such good context for something. It really does feel like you're part of the game and you're part of the team in that sense. You spoke a lot about sort of, trust and the success that you're aiming for, but is there anything else when you're working on this with customers that's top of mind for you around success?
Yeah, absolutely. When everything works the way that it should, that is the best possible outcome. It means the customer can stay focused in delivering an incredible event, and we have done our job in making all of that possible. If I break that down a little bit, success comes down to three things for me. It is about customer confidence, a fan experience, a flawless execution in the moment that matters most. First, the customer feels confidence and fully supported every step of the way. Second, fans enjoy the moment without ever having to think about the technology behind the scenes. That's a big one for me. And third, the event unfolds exactly the way it should, smoothly, confidently, and without disruption during the moment, that matters most to the customer.
Yeah, Lindsay, I think you hit on it perfectly, which is our intention across these teams, and especially folks like Kevin, is that Adobe is an extension of the customer's technology team, so that we're transparent with each other, we're honest with each other. As Kevin said, we're building confidence with them in terms of the prep. So it's not like we're showing up 2 weeks before the Super Bowl and saying, hey guys, I hear you have this big event happening. Like, what should we do about it? So I think what you touched on is really important, because whether it's, the Super Bowl, whether it's the Olympics for NBC Peacock, we want to be an extension of those teams and those customers, so they feel like we're locked in arms as they prepare, because they're nervous too. So we should help to dissipate some of that.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
There's so much at stake. Yeah.
Great call.
Incredible. Okay. And then all of you have talked a little bit about scale. And so, Jason, I'd love to know more about what your team supports today on a completely different level than just a few years ago. and then what's driven that growth, and also like some learnings along the way, right? Like we're all learning together and everything is evolving and things are moving quickly. So tell us.
Yeah, no, when I started with Adobe about a decade ago, I suddenly feel old just saying that, but it is what it is. The team that brought me in had been helping with customer events, but they had realized and recognized that we were successful by heroic events way too often. I love heroes, but I don't want to have to rely on heroes. At that point, we were tracking less than 50 customer events a year in terms of facilitation. This year will be above 700. And, when I was hired, they said, Jason, make this work. And so we sat down with teams and we tried to discover what is needful. And we found out that too often we didn't know what we needed to know before walking into an event. I mean, we have fantastic resources. We've learned, we've grown, we're into the cloud. We can scale dynamically across many things. But there are nuances to scaling. There's pre-warming, there's transferring audiences as you're scaling up. And sometimes it's not as transparent as you want. So we have learned that we need to understand intimately what a customer's expectations are going into an event. And forgive me, I'm speaking to that crowd right now. If we're asking you too many questions, it's just because we want you to be successful. Help me, help you,
Absolutely.
help you, kind of thing. Honestly, we don't know how you're going to implement our resources. Are you bringing out a new product during this announcement and suddenly your resource utilization is going to go up 90%? We want to know about that. And that's a large part of what we do as well, is to have the right people in place at the right time in order to mitigate all of these things in real time.
That is incredible scale. And I love hearing some of those learnings. Elliot, you mentioned the World Cup is kicking off. Adobe has, I think, 24 customers participating in that event spanning across so many different industries. What does preparation for something like that scale look like?
Yeah, it's real interesting because I would say that this time around, this type of event, Jason and I had to stretch some new muscles. While we can look at the World Cup in analogies of like the Olympics, where it's prolonged over a period of time, or March Madness, which is also prolonged over a period of time, but there are marquee games within that window of time. The World Cup is very similar, so it's prolonged, from mid-June to mid-July. So how do we plan for the unknowns or some prediction around potential behavior or scale across our solutions, but also different from a planning perspective? Jason and I have gone globetrotting. We've met teams across our APAC region, our EMEA regions, who have customers who are international rights holders for the broadcast in their countries or regions that we've never dealt with before for, say, the Super Bowl. So it's given us an opportunity to showcase what the offering is, what does event monitoring and planning look like from a global scale, but bring them into the larger tent so that when Jason sits down with our engineering team, we can look at the customers from a global lens and include them in our dashboarding, in our monitoring, in our internal Slack channels that are going to be for the World Cup, essentially, 18 hours a day that we're going to have to monitor with all the time zone changes. So it's been really fascinating, but we've taken our learnings from all these similar like events from a behavioral standpoint and deploy that against the World Cup because of it has some similarities from a sports perspective. But then we've also been able to leverage internal templates and research that we've done for our events to then bring in a larger tent globally from our counterparts in some of these other markets to make sure that they feel comfortable in their regions with an offering that they generally have had an opportunity to participate in, because it's been 4 years since the last World Cup, and to Jason's point, maybe there were 50 events then and 700 now, and the World Cup wasn't really top of mind 4 or 5 years ago when we were doing this. So
exactly.
Cool. Thinking about dynamic scaling instead of just being reactive, you guys have been sort of touching on that a little bit, and thinking about sort of the near future, where this program is headed, what does that signal with this really dynamic, the need to be more dynamic?
I'd grab that one first.
Sure.
We've heard you. We have had requests for years for Adobe to just be Adobe and scale up and do whatever we need whenever we need. And we're starting to develop the ability to do that. We just have a new product offering with our Experience Manager product that's coming out of the gate, but they can scale to meet any need dynamically at any time without any lag.
Yeah, and Lindsay, I'm going to tee up Kevin, because one of the things that we've worked hard at with the NFL in particular is, as Kevin would probably call it, their critical path, right? So they have a giant suite of products, and understanding, and I'll let Kevin talk more about this, but what that critical path looks like, because it's, to Jason's point, it's not onesie twosie solutions. It all plays a role. And so what are we doing as best practices with our customer to look at the entire footprint? And Kevin, I'll leave it to you to talk a little bit about the NFL's critical path, but that's also an important nuance here, because the scale doesn't come just as isolation. It's a holistic view. So Kevin, take it away.
Yeah, I mean, some of the most important moments for our customers have become more digital, more connected, more frequent. Gone are the days when we're dealing with just a few flagship events per year. Now there are hundreds of high-stakes launches, campaigns, experiences that are happening as part of the business, right? So, as Elliot mentioned, we have customers with very complex environments, that we have to be very flexible and adjust. One of the things that we pride ourselves on is that we don't have a one size fits all process. Every customer is different. Every customer's environment is different. And, we meet you where you are, right? And we work with you, we partner with you as our customers to essentially, create a process that fits your situation, right? And grows with your situation. We try to make a process that's elastic, right? That just expands as you expand, right? So, coming back to what, Elliot said, that's what we strive for. That's what we try to do in these complex environments, in accounts like the NFL. And that's the type of service, that we're striving to continuously improve on and continuously making better, as Jason mentioned earlier.
I love that. Okay. For marketer leaders who are watching this right now, this is for everyone. So get your answers ready. What's the one thing that you want them to take away for how Adobe helps them win on game day? Kevin, you're in the hot seat. You're first.
I guess one thing I would like to, leave folks with, Adobe just doesn't show up when, things go wrong. We partner with our customers before, during, and after the most important moments that they're experiencing to help make sure that those moments succeed. This means, we try to be very proactive in everything that we do. Just going back to, Elliot's and Jason's comments about, when we ask questions, those are very deliberate, in trying to get our processes to match your expectations and what you're trying to accomplish. Through these events, we want to make sure that we get that right. So, we love the partnership. So, that's the gist of it for me, and that's what I would like to leave, with a marketing leader.
That's great. Jason.
I'm going to parrot a little bit of what Kevin said and what I've already said. Our success metric is, does the customer walk away from an event feeling like it went well? When you're successful, we're successful. So help me help you. Let's have some conversations going into it, just so we understand exactly what your expectations are and how you're going to perform, what you're bringing to the table. You can tell me it's business as usual, and that's a good answer too. But I want you to walk away just going, that went exactly or better than it needed to, better than I hoped it would. And that's our goal.
Love it. Elliot, bring it home.
All right, I'll bring it home. I mean, I think for me, one of the most important things to remember is that we're the customer too. So while we might be sitting behind the scenes for months and months talking to engineers and product people and doing, technical plumbing, at the end of the day, I'm watching the Super Bowl. I'm shopping on Black Friday. So, it's on us to live the experience we're helping to implement. At the end of the day, I think, there's some passion behind what we do, because we are the end customer and end consumer of much of what our Adobe customers are doing with both the event itself, streaming or monitoring or watching, versus purchasing. And whether that's a commerce-based thing for Cyber Monday or Black Friday, or whether that's enjoying the FIFA World Cup starting tomorrow, we're having the same experience that we're delivering for the customers on their behalf of their consumers also.
Yeah, we are all customers of all of these amazing events. Thank you so much, Jason, Elliot, and Kevin, for being here today and for sharing your insights with us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, Lindsay. It was awesome.
So much fun.
Thank you. Thank you.
I loved having that conversation with them. Some key takeaways from that segment: preparation is everything. Ask questions, lay the foundation. Success means a great experience for everyone. The industry changes, but the challenges are the same. And Adobe is your true partner before, during, and after the big moment. Okay, so we've been talking about personalization, data, trust, scale, and real-time insights. That's a place that most organizations are still working towards. We even heard that in our opening poll as well. That's exactly where Adobe Gen Studio for Performance Marketing is designed to help you get to. This is where enterprise teams start building on-brand content at volume, faster review cycles, and activation across channels without starting from scratch every time. Think of Gen Studio for Performance Marketing as the playbook before you take the field. If today's session has you thinking about what your own content operation could look like, Gen Studio for Performance Marketing is a good place to start. Let us know if you'd like to learn more. On the right side of your screen, check out the resources panel for the link to a free trial. Woo, woo, woo. Okay. It looks like we've run out the clock. We've got the Knicks and Spurs game tonight. Go Knicks! The World Cup tomorrow. NFL training camps are next. Different events, same opportunities. The moments won't wait. If you'd like us to follow up with a custom demo, more information, please let us know on the survey to the right of your screen. We also have all of these great related resources. You will also get our on-demand recording. Thank you to our audience for being here today. A huge thank you to our speakers for sharing their insights and their expertise. Have a great rest of your day.